As the 87th legislative session wrapped up here in Texas, one of the bills, SB7, expected to head to the governor's desk, was stalled by Texas Democrats who walked out. Now the question is, what comes next? Here to talk about that is Travis County GOP Executive Director Brian Ruddle and Ed Espinoza from Poregress Texas. Now, Democrats pulled that 11th hour walkout to break the quorum that killed SB7. That bill is an overhaul of the state's election rules and how Texans can vote. The move by Democrats so angered Governor Abbott, he threatened to veto a budget item that funded lawmaker salaries. At Espinoza, can there ever be a compromise on SB7?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know if Republicans are willing to compromise. They weren't willing to compromise this time. Let's keep in mind how they put this bill together. They did it behind closed doors. They did not want to answer questions from Democrats. They added things to the bill in the conference committee that were not in the original bills, and then they suspended the rules to get it through. They changed the rules to pass the bill. So they did a lot of very remarkably bad things to get this bill where it is without any kind of movement from Democrats on this. I really don't know what can be done in the future, but these extreme measures are why Democrats had to take extreme measures to walk out and kill the session on Sunday.
Brian Ruddle, what about that?
Well, you know, I've never been paid for a day of work where I leave the job early. You know, look, this election bill will be addressed during a special legislative session coming up in a couple months. Republicans, I think, across the board are very encouraged by what we've seen out of SB7, making sure that we have standard election processes across the state, that we're not just allowing county clerks just to make up their own election rules as they see fit. This will be seen again. This is not the end of election integrity here in Texas.
Ed Espinoza, give us the most simple, straightforward example of how SB7 stops people from voting.
Well, one of the things that SB7 does was it changes the hours that people can vote. It limits the hours that people can vote. You can't vote before 1 o'clock on a Sunday. Republicans are now saying that was a clerical error. But you had Brian Hughes, a Republican senator, arguing for the 1 o'clock start time. So was it a clerical error, or are they just walking back the issue? That's just one of so many issues. They empower partisan poll workers to be active in polling places more so than election officials. They're trying to have a provision where you can overturn an election because you disagree with the outcome. Really just some things that need to be vetted out in the media, like we're doing right here, and in the public, none of which was done with this bill.
Why do you think that wasn't done, Brian Ruddle?
There are a lot of, various outlets about why SB7 wasn't able to get across the finish line. I think, a lot of Republicans wish they had really brought this to the floor a little bit earlier on such a contentious issue.
Why didn't they? I mean, if this is so important,
well,
how did we get here?
I do think that, Democrats at the state legislature, did something that I think Republicans had not expected. I think that the Republicans had thought that, even though we have bitter partisan issues here in Texas, that, Democrats would at least show up. The Democrats decided not to this, at the end of the session. So, they decided to walk out and kind of abandon their responsibilities as state legislators to be there, to speak on behalf of bills, to vote against it if they don't like it, but to show up, number one.
Well, everything's a matter of opinion now, and SB 7.2, I'm sure, is probably coming. We got to wrap it up. Ed, Brian, thank you both.
Thank you.
All right.